right, we had the gospel reading that we just read together, and it's the story of a woman. A woman appeared with a spirit that had crippled her for 18 years. She was bent over and unable to stand up straight. And when Jesus saw her, he called out to her, "Woman, you are set free from your ailment." And when he laid hands on her, she stood up straight and she was cured. Here it says she had a spirit that had crippled her. Later on in the gospel it said Satan bound her for 18 years. I don't think that was the case. I think it was probably part of her circumstances in life that helped her to be crippled in the way that she was. I mean, it could be other kinds of circumstances. But in my profession, I see things. I see things that other people don't see. When I'm in public, when I'm in airports, when I'm sitting on a street corner, I watch people and I observe what's going on in their lives. And sometimes you see people who are slumped forward and who are carrying a heavy burden on their shoulders. Sometimes we carry the burdens of our family on our shoulders. But a lot of children grow up crippled from the terrible things their parents have said and done to them. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. Even in my own family, I had an uncle. He had 4 children. He was always angry with his children. We were all sitting at a table having supper, and he was always yelling from one kid to the next. He would yell at them. And I thanked God, even though my parents weren't perfect, I thank God that my parents weren't like that. It cripples us. What cripples us is the negative language, the rhetoric that we hear over and over again. Sometimes parents slap their kids and they hit their kids. But yelling and screaming at them can cripple them more than anything else. We've heard in the paper every day about what's going on at the Christian school in Saskatoon. And it just seems to be another one of those stories, doesn't it? That we're hearing all the time. Children going to a school that supposedly is Christian and is a safe place for them to be. How many tens of thousands of First Nations children were sent away to school, to a safe place where they would hear the Christian faith and experience the Christian faith, and it was quite the opposite that they experienced. We can't imagine what it was like living in those kinds of situations. My heart goes out to people who had experiences like this, especially when they come to a Christian church or a Christian school, and we anticipate and we expect that we will hear about the love of God. And we also expect that in the actions of those who are leaders in this community, we will experience the love of God. We will hear the affirmations. We will hear the affirming words that lift us up out of the darkness, lift us up out of the difficulties of life, and take us to a new height. That is the purpose, isn't it? Isn't that the purpose of Christianity? Is to lift us up? To lift us up out of the darkness and the difficulties of this world. And unfortunately, it has had the opposite effect on many tens of thousands of people. And it's not just one generation, it is often numerous generations. For if one person grows up without love in their heart, without a shred of self-love and acceptance, it is very difficult for them to do anything different to their children, to their grandchildren, and their great-grandchildren. About 6 months ago, I read a book about slavery in the United States. And not just about the slavery that happened in the 17 and 1800s, but about the generation after generation, how slavery affected the self-worth of all the generations that followed. And sometimes we scratch our heads and wonder, why can't these people lift themselves up and live a life like we are living our lives? For some, it's nearly impossible. And we cannot stand in judgment, but we must stand in compassion and understanding and try as we might to extend the love, acceptance, and forgiveness of God. As we continue our journey, it's important for us to live the gospel. To live the gospel as parents and as grandparents, as a community here. You cannot preach the gospel with your words and not live the gospel with your actions. The actions will speak louder than any words that we speak. So unfortunately, Christianity has a lot of reparation to do. We have a lot of changing to do. We have the message, but somehow that message has been distorted. And it's time for us, for those of us who know the message of love, acceptance, equality, it's time for us to speak the message loud and clear. And to lift up our children, lift up our grandchildren, lift up those who have been crippled by the words and the harshness of their parents or their teachers or their siblings. And if it's time for us to heal our own hearts, then today's the day. And now is the time. God bless us. Amen.